warm today. I'm not complaining though, but jeez. Hello there, it's just me, your old buddy Grizzly Jim, and I just wanted to do a quick little video on arrow spine. Now again, this is one of those videos aimed at people who don't really know a lot about archery. If you know, then you know, and this seems really obvious. But if you didn't know, it's not the most intuitive thing in the world, and I'm gonna say it's about arrow spine. And a stiff arrow and versus a weak arrow, and how they're kind of labeled. Now, if you see down here, I've got some Bear Paw Hunter Extreme arrows, nice kind of woven carbon arrow I've been having to play with, and you know that comes in 7 different spine ranges from 800 all the way up to 300, and you might think that a 300 is weak, and as you go up the numbers they get stiffer. It's not, it's the other way around. The higher the number, the weaker the arrow shaft is. So you've got the weakest down here, which is an 800 spine, all the way up to a 300, which is really kind of stiff. That's kind of like your high poundage hunting weight bows versus your sort of much sort of lighter poundage recreational bows. And in there somewhere is going to be the right spine for your bow, for your draw weight, for your draw length. You'd use something like this, which is an arrow chart. Now there are many different arrow charts out there. They all pretty much have the same sort of information, but it should be a guide. It's a jumping off point. I wouldn't take kind of that information as sacrosanct. It's, you know, there is a little bit of variation in there. I've never found them to be spot on. I always have to do a little bit of tweaking, whether that's go a spine weaker or a spine heavier, maybe mess around with point weight. But it's a good jumping off point. And like I say, if you've got your arrows mostly right, and you work on a good, solid, repeatable, clean release, you're going to get some good results, whether or not they're a spine either way. But we'll look at tuning those in as you go. But if we just take a closer look at these arrows, you can see different numbers. You've got the number here, which refers to the spine rating of the arrow, like sort of 800 to 300, which we sort of mentioned. Then you've got the straightness. Now these are all plus or minus 0.03, which is pretty good for a trad arrow. You know, the high-end target arrows tend to come in a straightness of 0.01, sometimes even more so. But let's face it, you're shooting off the fingers, you're sticking feathers on it, you're shooting off a shelf if you're shooting trad. That, whether it's a 0.01 straightness, 0.03, 0.06, unless you're at the absolute top of your game, it's not going to make a huge amount of difference. Then you've got the GPI. That stands for grains per inch. Now, a lot of things when it comes to arrows are weighed in grains. And you can see the stiffer the arrow, the thicker it tends to be, the thicker the inner wall tends to be. Sometimes the overall diameter of the arrow is a little bit thicker. But you tend to, because it's thicker, there's more carbon in it or whatever material you're looking at, and the weight goes up. So the heaviest arrow, the 300 spine arrow, which is the stiffest arrow, that's got a GPI of 10.67. The weaker spine, which is the 800, that's got a 5.44 GPI or grains per inch. So it's a lighter arrow. And also when it comes to arrow weights, you want to make sure that the arrow isn't too light for your bow. Now you should, when you get your bow in the manufacturer's blurb you get with it, there should be a recommended arrow weight. I know the bow I've got, I think it's about 9 point something GPI, but you know, you've got to find what works for you. Bows do like heavy arrows because all the energy is going into the arrow. There's none of the energy going back into the bow and causing hand shock. If you use an arrow that's too light, that's when you're going to find yourself causing potential damage to the bow. It's not going to feel great. So you want to make sure you're using the right arrow weight. But yeah, I just wanted to give you a quick little video about mostly about arrow spine, because it's what, like I say, it's one of those things. If you know it, great. It's It's really simple, but if you don't know it, it can be confusing. I know someone who was shooting way the wrong spine arrow because they got the calculations wrong in their mind and went for a, I think they went for a ridiculously, they ended up with a ridiculously stiff arrow because they thought they were coming down the spine ranges when in fact they were going up. Now there are a couple of different methods. I think Carbon Express uses slightly different arrow spine rating, but the standard is this kind of like the 500, 600, 700. But yeah, that is a little bit about arrow spines. I hope you found that useful. Hope it's helped you out sort of when making decisions about what equipment you need, but give us a shout if you're unsure. Someone in the office will gladly talk you through what spine you need. But anyway, I hope you found that useful. You take care, shoot straight, and I will see you on the internet. Bye bye.